Bobbie Dangerous. The amp feedback screamed through the smoky air of the Dallas underground as Bobbie Dangerous stood atop his Marshall stack. Electric guitar slung low, his signature bandages gleaming under the stage lights. One beneath his eye, another on his chin. Battle scars from a life lived at full throttle. "You lot's ready for something proper mental?" he shouted, his British accent tinged with a Texas drawl that made concert promoters scratch their heads and fans lose their minds. The crowd roared as he launched into his infamous death drop, a backward fall from 15 feet up that would make insurance agents faint. Bobbie hadn't always been dangerous. Back in London, he'd been Robert Blackwood, a 6-year-old clutching his mum's hand as they boarded a plane to Texas, his father's oil business calling them across the pond. But Dallas had a way of transforming people, and young Robert had transformed more than most. By 13, he'd discovered his father's dusty guitar in the attic, and by 14, he was sneaking into blues clubs on Deep Ellum, absorbing the raw energy that would later fuel his sound. The old bluesman took to the peculiar British kid who spoke with a twang, teaching him licks between sets and wisdom between songs. "Rules," Bobbie would often say in interviews. "Rules are just challenges wrapped in red tape, mate." This philosophy had earned him both devoted followers and dedicated detractors. His latest stunt, riding a motorcycle across the stage while playing a guitar solo, had nearly ended in disaster when he crashed through the drum kit. But that only added to his legend. His penthouse apartment overlooking downtown Dallas was a testament to excess. Gold records on the walls, empty bottles of premium spirits on every surface, and a constant stream of hangers-on looking for a piece of his chaos. But in quiet moments when the parties died down and the groupies went home, Bobbie would sit on his balcony with his acoustic guitar, bandaging his latest injuries and composing melodies that spoke of a deeper pain. The papers called him the wild child of West End, Dallas's British invasion of one, and rock's latest liability. His record label both feared and revered him. Each album pushed boundaries and sales records, while each tour left a trail of destroyed hotel rooms and broken hearts across the American South. "Y'all don't understand," he drawled to Rolling Stone, adjusting his Band-Aid while reclining in a leather chair. "I'm not causing chaos. I'm conducting it. There's a difference in it." But beneath the bravado and the carefully cultivated image of danger, Bobbie was fighting his own demons. The cocaine binges were getting longer, the motorcycle stunts more reckless, the falls from stage props more dangerous. His closest friends whispered that he was pushing too hard, testing too many limits. Still, every night, he took the stage was electric. His fusion of British rock attitude and Texas blues authenticity created something entirely new. When he played, the bandages on his face seemed less like affectations and more like warnings. Here was a man who would bleed for his art, who would crash and burn for entertainment, who would risk it all for one more legendary show. In the end, that's what made Bobbie Dangerous more than just another rock star. He was a live wire, a loaded gun, a crash waiting to happen. And Dallas, Texas wouldn't have him any other way. As he often said, closing his shows with a wink to the audience, "Life's boring without a little danger, ain't it, loves?" Behind every bandage was a story. Behind every story was a scar. And behind every scar was a night that Bobbie Dangerous had pushed the envelope just a little bit further, making rock and roll history one dangerous moment at a time. The rise of danger. The story of how Bobbie became dangerous was already rock legend. It happened at his first major gig at the age of 19, opening for a famous metal band at the Texas State Fair. During his set, a drunk heckler had thrown a bottle that cut his face. Instead of stopping the show, Bobbie had torn a piece of his white shirt, made 2 makeshift bandages, and kept playing while blood seeped through the fabric. The crowd went wild, and a signature look was born. His band, the Beautiful Disasters, became notorious for their unpredictable live shows. Each member had their own dangerous quirk. Mad Mickey on drums would set his sticks on fire. Bass Betty would play hanging upside down from the rafters. And Switchblade Steve would juggle knives while playing rhythm guitar. But none could match Bobbie's sheer magnetism and determination to push every boundary. The Beautiful Chaos. His debut album, Beautiful Chaos, went platinum in 2 weeks. The title track, with its mixture of howling blues guitar and punk rock attitude, became an anthem for rebellious youth across America. The lyrics spoke of breaking free from society's constraints, but those close to Bobbie knew it was really about his relationship with his father, the straight-laced oil executive who'd once told him, "Music is for weekends, son, not for life." The follow-up album, Texas Tea and London Fog, showcased his unique cultural blend. Songs like Deep Ellum Nights and London's Calling, but Texas Has My Number, demonstrated his ability to bridge 2 worlds. The album's centerpiece, Bandage Blues, told the story of a man wearing his scars like medals, a metaphor that wasn't lost on his growing fanbase. The Price of Living Dangerous. By his 3rd album, No Safety Net, the cracks were beginning to show. During the notorious Gasoline and Guitars tour, Bobbie's stunts became increasingly death-defying. He'd swing from stadium rafters, set his guitar on fire while playing, and once even attempted to skydive onto the stage, a stunt that was thankfully stopped by his management. The drugs weren't helping. What started as recreational indulgence had evolved into something darker. His guitar tech, Jimmy the Saint Matthews, found him one night in his dressing room, trembling and covered in sweat, trying to tune a guitar with strings he'd already removed. "The noise in my head, mate," Bobbie had whispered. "It never bloody stops unless I am up there risking it all. The danger, it's the only thing that makes me feel alive anymore." The awakening. It was a young fan that finally made him pause. After a show in Houston, a teenage girl showed him her own face bandages. She'd been in a car accident trying to imitate one of his stunts. The reality of his influence hit him hard, and for the first time, Bobbie began to question the path he was on. That night, he wrote what would become his most powerful song yet. Dangerous Love, a raw, emotional ballad about the fine line between living life to the fullest and dancing with death. The song revealed a vulnerability his fans had never seen before, and paradoxically, made him even more magnetic. The evolution. Now, at 28, Bobbie Dangerous was evolving. He still wore the bandages, still played with fire in his eyes, but there was something different. His newest album, Beautiful Scars, was his most sophisticated yet. A blues rock opera about a man learning to channel his wild spirit into something more meaningful. The motorcycle stunts were replaced with masterful guitar work that left audiences just as breathless. The cocaine gave way to meditation, though he kept the medicinal marijuana, claiming it balanced his chakras in it. He was still anti-establishment, still fought against the system, but now he did it with his music and his message rather than just spectacle. But make no mistake, Bobbie Dangerous was still dangerous. Only now he was dangerous in the way that truth is dangerous, that authenticity is dangerous, that real raw emotion is dangerous. His bandages became less about shocking people and more about reminding himself and others that our scars tell our stories. Life's still boring without danger, he'd say in his latest interviews, that familiar mix of London proper and Texas charm in his voice. But maybe the real danger is in being honestly, unabashedly yourself, And that, loves, is the most dangerous stunt of all. And every night, somewhere in a sold-out venue, when the lights go down and the crowd holds its breath, Bobbie Dangerous still proves why he earned that name, one power chord at a time. The beautiful disasters fall apart. The success of Beautiful Scars marked both the peak and the end of the beautiful disasters. The tensions had been building. Mad Mickey resented Bobbie's newfound sobriety and spiritual bullshit. Bass Betty had launched a solo career, and Switchblade Steve had developed a heroin habit that made him increasingly unreliable. The band imploded spectacularly during a sold-out show at Madison Square Garden, when Mickey's flaming drumsticks set fire to more than just the stage. It was bound to happen, Bobbie later told Spin magazine. We were called the beautiful disasters for a reason, weren't we? Some disasters just can't be beautiful forever. The relapse. The band's collapse hit Bobbie harder than anyone expected. Without the structure of touring and his band family, the old demons came roaring back. He disappeared from the public eye for 6 months, only to resurface in a series of increasingly concerning tabloid photos. Bloody bandages replaced with actual wounds, meditation beads swapped for needle tracks. His infamous Lost Weekend in Bangkok became the stuff of rock legend. He was found in a temple-turned-underground club, jamming with local musicians and babbling about finding the sound of chaos in harmony. It was there he met Bonnie Bangkok, a Thai-British keyboard prodigy who would change his life. The rise of Bobbie Dangerous, the band. Bonnie Bangkok wasn't impressed by Bobbie's reputation. She'd studied at the Royal Academy of Music before running away to explore the underground Asian electronic scene. Your pain isn't special, she told him bluntly, but your music could be. If you'd stop trying so hard to destroy yourself. Something about her brutal honesty cut through the haze. Within weeks, they were working on new material that fused his blues rock foundations with her electronic orchestrations. The sound was unlike anything either had created before. Tommy XX. Martinez came next, a drummer they found playing in a Mexico City underground club who could match both Bobbie's intensity and Bonnie's technical precision. His double X stage makeup and flowing black hair added a gothic element to their emerging aesthetic. Ronnie Rage Williams rounded out the lineup on bass. A former jazz prodigy turned punk rocker, she brought a funkiness to the bottom end that gave their sound a groove no one expected. Her nickname came not from anger, but from her intensity while playing. She would enter an almost trance-like state during performances. The new dynamic. Bobbie Dangerous, the band, was different from the Beautiful Disasters in every way. Where the old band had been about spectacle, the new one was about substance, though they never lost their edge. Bonnie became Bobbie's musical soulmate and occasional sparring partner. Their creative tensions were legendary. She would push him toward complexity while he fought for raw emotion. It's like watching a hurricane argue with an earthquake, Tommy Chidwex once said, and somehow beautiful music comes out. Ronnie Rage took on a big sister role to everyone, particularly during Bobbie's shakier moments. She'd survived her own addiction battles and recognized the signs when he was struggling. More than once, she pulled him back from the edge with nothing more than a bass line and a knowing look. Tommy 20 became the band's spiritual center, surprisingly enough. Behind the gothic makeup was a practicing Buddhist who helped Bobbie find a balance between excitement and excess. Life's about rhythm, hermano, he'd say. You don't have to crash the cymbal to make it sing. The new sound. Their first album as Bobbie Dangerous, Bangkok to Dallas, shocked everyone. Songs like Temple of the Black Dog and Synthetic Blues created a new genre some called cyber blues. Bonnie's keyboards wove through Bobbie's guitar work like digital lightning through an analog storm. The live shows were still spectacular, but in a different way. Instead of dangerous stunts, they created immersive experiences. Bonnie's keyboard setup would project holographic imagery. Tommy's drum kit was rigged with LED arrays that pulsed with his rhythms, and Ronnie's bass frequencies were linked to smoke machines that created patterns in the air. The tension returns, but old habits die hard. As their success grew, so did the pressure. Bobbie started missing rehearsals, showing up with fresh bandages that weren't just for show. The band watched with growing concern as history threatened to repeat itself. During the Digital Wasteland tour, things came to a head. Before a show in New Orleans, Bonnie found Bobbie in his dressing room, surrounded by empty bottles and suspicious powder residue. "You're not doing this again," she said, laying her stage outfit on a chair. "Not to yourself, and not to us. You don't understand, love," he slurred, reaching for another bottle. "Sometimes the noise gets too loud," she finished. "Then let's make it louder, but together, this time." That night, instead of their planned set, Bonnie led the band in a 20-minute improvisational piece that would later become their signature song, Beautiful Noise. The footage of Bobbie playing through his tears, bandages soaked with sweat rather than substances, became their most viewed performance online. The present now, Bobbie Dangerous stands at a crossroads. The band is working on their third album, tentatively titled Dangerous Redemption. The old, wild nature still calls to him. It always will. But now he has a family on stage who understand both the danger and the beauty of his nature. "The bandages ain't just for show anymore," he told Guitar World in his most recent interview. "They're reminders, yeah? Every time I think about going too far, I look at Bonnie's determined face behind those keys, feel Tommy's steady rhythm holding me up, hear Ronnie's bass keeping me grounded. Being dangerous isn't just about risking your life. Sometimes it's about risking your heart by letting people in." The band continues to tour, their shows a perfect balance of chaos and control. And every night, 4 very different souls come together to make something dangerous, something beautiful, something entirely new. The new formation. After hitting rock bottom in a Bangkok underground club, Bobbie Danger found himself watching a mesmerizing performance by a keyboard player whose fingers seemed to dance across both traditional piano keys and electronic controllers. This was Bonnie Bangkok, whose real name was Bonnie Suthasini, a conservatory-trained musician who'd rejected the classical world for something more experimental. "Your music's got demons in it," she told him after their first jam session. "But mine's got spirits. Let's see which ones are stronger." The musical chemistry was instant, but complicated. Bonnie's precise, almost mathematical approach to composition clashed beautifully with Bobbie's raw, emotional style. She introduced elements of traditional Thai music, filtered through synthesizers, creating textures that made his blues riffs sound both ancient and futuristic. The rhythm section. Tommy XX got his nickname from the 2 straight-edge X's he painted under his eyes, a reminder of his past struggles with addiction and his current sobriety. His drumming style mixed metal's intensity with jazz's complexity, and he became the band's unofficial mediator. "In drumming, silence is as important as sound," he'd tell Bobbie during their late-night talks. "Same with life, hermano. Sometimes you gotta let the quiet in." Ronnie Rage brought the thunder, a self-taught bassist who'd learned by playing along to punk records in her parents' garage. She had an uncanny ability to hold the band's disparate elements together. Her nickname came from the intense focus she brought to every performance. Eyes closed, head bowed, completely lost in the groove. The new sound takes shape. Their first rehearsal as a complete unit was chaos. Bonnie's complex arrangements collided with Bobbie's bluesy improvisations. Tommy tried to bridge the gap with polyrhythms while Ronnie watched, amused, until she finally stepped in with a bass line that somehow made sense of it all. "That's it," she said during a break. "We're not trying to fix each other's styles. We're trying to create something new." The band's sound evolved into something unique. Blues rock filtered through electronic textures, driven by progressive rhythms and held together by hypnotic bass grooves. They called it future blues, though critics struggled to categorize it. Personal dynamics. Each member brought their own dynamic to the group. Bonnie challenged Bobbie intellectually and musically, pushing him to expand his songwriting beyond personal pain into more universal themes. Their creative arguments became legendary within the Dallas music scene. Tommy became the band's spiritual center, introducing meditation sessions before shows and helping everyone stay grounded amid growing success. His own history with addiction made him particularly attuned to Bobbie's struggles. Ronnie's calm presence balanced the intense personalities around her. She had an uncanny ability to detect when tensions were rising and could usually diffuse them with a well-timed joke or a perfectly placed bass riff. The evolution continues. Now entering their third year together, Bobbie Dangerous has evolved beyond anyone's expectations. Live shows feature impressive technical displays without losing the raw emotion that made Bobbie famous. The band members' different backgrounds and approaches have created something entirely new in rock music. The future remains unwritten, but one thing's certain. This incarnation of Bobbie Dangerous isn't just about one man's wild nature anymore. It's about four distinct voices finding harmony in chaos, creating something dangerous and beautiful together. Musical DNA. The signature sound. What made Bobbie Dangerous unique was how each member's background created an unreplicable fusion. Bobbie brought his blues rock foundation, but filtered through his British Texan duality. His guitar style mixed Hendrix-like psychedelia with Texas blues grit. He'd often detune his strings mid-song for that danger of potentially everything falling apart. Bonnie's keyboard setup became legendary in tech circles. 3 synthesizers, a traditional piano, and a custom-built Bangkok box that processed traditional Thai instruments through digital filters. She could switch from ethereal soundscapes to aggressive electronic rhythms in seconds. Tommy 20's drum kit was equally unique. Traditional acoustic drums augmented with electronic triggers and Thai gongs. He'd often play polyrhythms that somehow made sense of Bobbie's chaos and Bonnie's precision. Ronnie's bass style was the secret weapon. She could match Bobbie's blues feeling while following Bonnie's complex arrangements, all while maintaining Tommy's world-spanning rhythms. Legendary shows. The Temple of Digital Dreams, Bangkok, 2023. During their Thailand tour, they performed in an ancient temple with permission from local monks. Bonnie's keyboards were set up amongst centuries-old statues, while Tommy incorporated temple bells into his drum solos. The show began at sunset and continued until dawn, with the band moving through different musical phases to match the night's progression. Halfway through, Bobbie climbed one of the temple pillars during a guitar solo. Old habits die hard. Bonnie nearly had a heart attack, but the monks just smiled. Even chaos has its place in the universe, one told her afterward. The Texas Motor Speedway incident, Dallas 2023. The band set up in the middle of the racetrack, with their music broadcast to cars circling them at high speeds. The vibrations from the vehicles became part of their sound. During Speed Demon Blues, Bobbie jumped onto a passing pace car while playing, a stunt that got them banned from the venue but became their most viral moment. The Underground Railroad, Austin, 2024. They discovered a network of Prohibition-era tunnels under Austin and organized a series of guerrilla shows. Audiences would be led blindfolded to different underground locations, where the band would emerge from the darkness playing different styles. The final show featured them performing on boats in an underground river. Behind the music, personal dynamics. Bobbie and Bonnie, creative tension. Their relationship became the stuff of rock legend. They'd argue for hours about a single chord progression. Bobbie wanting to keep it raw, Bonnie insisting on perfection. During one particularly heated session, Bobbie smashed a guitar while Bonnie responded by programming a synthesizer to play nothing but high-pitched feedback for 6 hours. Yet their creative tension produced magic. Digital Blues Therapy was written during one of their arguments, with each trying to outdo the other musically. The song became their biggest hit. Tommy and Ronnie, The Rhythm Conspiracy. The rhythm section developed an almost telepathic connection. They'd spend hours in meditation together before shows, claiming it helped them sync their chakras. Their legendary Thunder Suite drum and bass duet would often stretch to 30 minutes, with Bobbie and Bonnie taking breaks to watch in amazement. Band. Therapy sessions. After a particularly rough patch, where Bobbie relapsed and Bonnie threatened to quit, they started weekly band therapy sessions. These evolved into musical healing circles, with each member expressing their frustrations through their instruments rather than words. Many of their most experimental pieces came from these sessions. Musical Evolution Phase 1, Digital Blues, early days. Their early sound was raw fusion, blues rock meets electronic music. Songs like Circuit Breaker Blues and Digital Voodoo established their basic template. Phase 2, World Fusion Post-Bangkok Tour. After touring Asia, they incorporated more world music elements. Bonnie's Thai influences became more prominent, while Tommy brought in Latin rhythms. Global Static and Bangkok Electric showcased this evolution. Phase 3, Experimental Period, Current. Their latest work pushes boundaries further. They've incorporated ambient soundscapes, spoken word, and field recordings. Songs stretch longer, with more improvisation and sonic experimentation. The current dynamic. The band functions like a dysfunctional family that somehow makes beautiful music together. Bobbie still comes up with wild ideas, but now runs them by Tommy first, who either approves with Zen-like wisdom or shuts them down with equal serenity. Bonnie has learned to embrace imperfection, though she still insists on recording at least 50 takes of every keyboard part. Ronnie keeps everyone grounded, often diffusing tensions with perfectly timed bass riffs or dad jokes. Tommy leads pre-show meditation sessions that everyone pretends to hate, but secretly loves. Looking forward, they're currently working on their most ambitious project yet, a series of connected EPs, each recorded in a different extreme location. A cave system, a desert, a mountain peak, and underwater. Bobbie calls it finding danger in nature rather than creating it myself. The band has moved beyond being just musicians playing together. They're sonic explorers pushing each other to new heights. As Bobbie recently told Rolling Stone, adjusting his latest bandage, "We're still dangerous, love. We've just learned to aim that danger at something bigger than ourselves." The Element Sessions, Dangerous in Nature, Project Overview. The Element Sessions became Bobbie Dangerous's most ambitious undertaking yet. 4 EPs recorded in extreme natural locations, each capturing the raw essence of earth, fire, air, and water. The project stemmed from a late-night conversation between Bobbie and Tommy 2020 after a particularly intense meditation session. "If we're gonna be dangerous," Tommy had said, "let's do it with the most dangerous force there is, nature itself." Earth, the cave sessions. Location, natural bridge caverns, Texas deep beneath the Texas soil. The band set up a makeshift studio in a massive limestone chamber. The natural reverb of the cave system created sounds they couldn't replicate anywhere else. Bonnie's synthesizers echoed through ancient formations, while Tommy's drums awakened prehistoric acoustics. The breakthrough moment came when Ronnie discovered that different chambers of the cave system resonated at different frequencies. She composed a bass line that literally moved through the cave network, with the band following her from chamber to chamber during recording. Tracks included Stalactite Symphony, Underground Kingdom Blues, Echo's Lament, Caveman's Digital Dreams. During one session, the power generator failed, leading to an acoustic performance in complete darkness that became the haunting final track, Dark Matter Blues. Fire, the Desert Sessions. Location, Chihuahuan Desert, West Texas. The band spent 2 weeks recording during the hottest part of summer. They set up solar-powered equipment and recorded primarily at dawn and dusk, when the desert's energy felt most potent. The extreme heat warped their instruments in unexpected ways, creating unique tones they decided to keep. Bonnie's keyboard suffered most in the heat, leading her to experiment with processing the actual sounds of the desert through her Bangkok box. The result was a mixture of electronic and natural desert sounds that became the EP's signature. Tommy incorporated the rhythms of rattlesnakes they encountered, while Bobbie swears the heat made his guitar strings sing on their own. Tracks included Solar Flare Serenade, Desert Witch, Mercury Rising, Heat Lightning Liaison. The title track, Desert Fever Dreams, was recorded during a sandstorm that nearly destroyed their equipment, but created an otherworldly atmosphere they couldn't have planned. Air, the Mountain Sessions location, Guadalupe Peak, Texas. Setting up equipment at Texas's highest point proved challenging, but the thin air and proximity to the clouds created an ethereal quality in their sound. Bonnie's keyboard work became more minimal and spacious, while Tommy had to adjust his playing to account for the altitude's effect on his stamina. Bobbie claimed the height made him dizzy, leading to some of his most psychedelic guitar work. Ronnie's bass frequencies interacted with the strong winds to create unexpected harmonics they incorporated into the recordings. Tracks included Thin Air Theorem, Cloud Surfer's Lament, Altitude Adjustments, Peak Experience. The EP's centerpiece, Heaven's Gate Blues, was recorded during a thunderstorm that nearly cost them their lives, but resulted in their most intense performance yet. Water, the Underwater Sessions. Location, Natural Spring System, Central Texas. The band worked with marine acoustic engineers to create a submersible recording setup in an underground spring system. They developed specialized equipment to capture both above and below water sounds simultaneously. Bonnie created waterproof sensor pads that translated water movement into PASI MIDI signals. Tommy's drums were replaced with hydrophones capturing the rhythms of underwater currents. Ronnie discovered that her bass frequencies created visible patterns in the water. Bobbie had to learn to play guitar while partially submerged, leading to a new technique he called liquid fingering. Tracks included Submerged in Sound, Spring Water Symphony, Aquatic Frequencies Get Deep and Dangerous. The final track, Drowning in Blues, was recorded with the entire band in scuba gear, creating music while completely submerged. Technical innovation. Each location required unique recording solutions. Cave sessions developed special microphone arrays to capture the natural cave, acoustics desert sessions, created solar-powered mobile recording rigs, mountain sessions, used specialized equipment modified for high altitude, underwater sessions, invented new waterproof instruments and recording techniques. Personal impact. The project changed each band member. Bobbie found a new kind of danger in working with natural elements rather than artificial stunts. Nature's got better stories than any I could make up, he noted. Bonnie's electronic work evolved to incorporate more natural sounds and spaces. Her Bangkok box became a tool for processing environmental audio rather than just synthesized sounds. Tommy's meditation practice deepened through connecting with each element, influencing his drumming style to become more organic and flowing. Ronnie discovered new ways to use bass frequencies to interact with natural spaces, developing what she called environmental bass theory. Release and reception. Each EP was released on the solstice or equinox, corresponding to nature's cycles. The complete project, Dangerous Elements, included both audio recordings and documentary footage of the recording process. The band plans to perform the entire collection in a single day, moving between corresponding natural locations in Texas, bringing audiences on a journey through the elements themselves. The Element Sessions, Into the Deep Cave Sessions, Technical Breakthroughs, Sound Mapping Challenge. The initial challenge was mapping the cave's acoustic properties. The team brought in Dr. Elena Martinez, a cave acoustic specialist, who helped them create a 3D sound map of the cavern system. They discovered that different chambers had distinct resonant frequencies. The main chamber resonated at 432 Hz, perfect for Bobbie's guitar fundamentals. The deeper caverns enhanced frequencies around 60 to 80 Hz, ideal for Ronnie's bass. The smaller side chambers created natural delay effects. Recording innovation. The spider web. They developed a unique microphone array nicknamed the spider web. 16 suspended microphones at different heights and angles, capturing the cave's natural reverb. Each mic was connected to a central recording hub, powered by battery arrays, positioned to minimize electrical interference with the sound. Stalactite Symphony, Deep Dive. The EP's opening track showcased their technical mastery of the cave environment. The song began with Bonnie recording actual stalactite drops, which she sampled and sequenced into a rhythmic pattern. Tommy matched this natural rhythm while adding tribal percussion echoing through different chambers. Bobbie discovered that playing his guitar near different rock formations produced unique overtones. In the bridge section, he moved through the cave while playing a single sustained note, its character changing with each formation he approached. Ronnie's bass line was recorded in what they called the resonance chamber, where certain notes would cause the entire cave to vibrate sympathetically. She had to wear protective gear due to falling rock dust, shaken loose by the low frequencies. Desert sessions, fighting the elements, heat management systems. The team constructed a series of solar-powered cooling units to protect the equipment. They developed a rotating schedule where gear would be used for 45 minutes, then cooled for 15, requiring precise timing during recordings. The sandstorm sequence. During Desert Fever Dreams, a sudden sandstorm hit. Instead of stopping, they protected the equipment with specialized filters and recorded through it. The storm's natural filtering effect on their sound created what Bonnie called nature's mix. Solar Flare Serenade. Breakdown. This track captured the desert's daily cycle. Recording began at dawn, 5:30 a.m., ambient desert, awakening sounds. 6 a.m., Bonnie synths mimicking the rising sun. 6:30 a.m., Tommy's drums following the increasing heat waves. 7 a.m., Bobbie's guitar matching the intensity of full daylight. 7:30 a.m., Ronnie's bass frequencies vibrating through the sand. Mountain peak innovations altitude. Adaptations. The thin air at Guadalupe Peak required significant equipment modifications. Custom-built cooling systems for electronics. Pressure-regulated cases for sensitive equipment. Modified drum heads to account for atmospheric pressure. Special guitar strings designed for extreme temperature changes. Heaven's Gate blues making of the thunderstorm recording became legendary. They used lightning-safe recording positions, grounded equipment setups, weather-sealed instruments, emergency backup systems. The storm actually enhanced the recording, with lightning strikes creating electromagnetic interference that Bonnie captured and incorporated into the track. Underwater challenges. The Aqua Studio innovation, creating underwater recording spaces required. Custom-built waterproof microphone arrays, specialized instrument modifications. An underwater mixing console, air supply systems integrated with monitoring equipment. Deep-end dangerous technical breakdown. The fully submerged recording session involved waterproof guitar pickups, hydrophone arrays for capturing water movement, pressure-sensitive drum triggers, underwater MIDI controllers, personal evolution through elements, Bobbie Danger Black. The project transformed Bobbie's approach to danger. Instead of manufacturing risk, he learned to respect and work with natural forces. His guitar playing evolved to incorporate more space and dynamics, influenced by each environment. In the cave, I learned to listen to silence. In the desert, I learned patience. On the mountain, I learned humility. Underwater, I learned to flow. These aren't just metaphors anymore. They're part of my sound. Bonnie, Bangkok. The natural environments revolutionized Bonnie's electronic approach. She developed new software to integrate natural sounds with her synthesizers. Cave Echo Engine, replicating natural cave acoustics. Desert Wind Synthesizer, converting heat patterns to sound mountain air modulator, using atmospheric pressure data to affect sound waves. Aqua Harmonic Generator, translating water movement to music. Tommy, 2020. Each environment affected Tommy's rhythmic approach. Cave Sessions, developed echo-conscious drumming techniques. Desert Sessions, incorporated natural desert rhythms into his playing mountain sessions, created pressure-sensitive dynamics. Underwater Sessions, learned to play with water resistance. Ronnie Rage. The project led Ronnie to develop what she called environmental bass theory. Cave bass, using resonant frequencies of natural spaces. Desert bass, working with heat-affected sound waves. Mountain bass, adapting to atmospheric pressure changes. Water bass, understanding how sound travels through liquid legacy and future. The Element Sessions changed not just the band, but their entire approach to music. They've begun planning a follow-up series focusing on urban environments, subway tunnels, skyscrapers, abandoned factories, and power plants. Nature taught us how to be dangerous in new ways, Bobbie reflected. Now we're taking those lessons back to the city. But this time, we're not just making noise. We're having a proper conversation with our environment.